Hi there, your favorite nobody here, and yeah, I don't think I'll ever be enough. And how are you doing? This is now take 3 of something I recorded and I thought makes sense, but then, as is with every trial and error, with every process of ideation, yeah, you create stuff and then you listen to it and you're like, no. Why? Because I'm out of my depth. The subject of culture, of art, of cultural appropriation, of politics. These are all vast themes that span oceans of time, and they have undergone so many transformations and changes and mean so many things to different people that it's hard to capture it all in a few minutes. So I'm not even going to try. But at the very least, I can tell you how I feel about the subject as somebody who loves his art and would rather not mix politics with art, and would say that art is certainly influenced by culture, but it doesn't have to be forced in any way, and it can transcend culture, and that politics and culture go hand in hand, and that ultimately, and very often, more often than sometimes, art does not really affect politics or culture. For if that were the case, everybody in South Korea would be dancing on the streets. And there would be no obese people, no ugly people, no poor people, you name it. It's just one very crude example of this. So then, can you put in fiction and cultural appropriation or misrepresentation in the same sentence? Yeah, if you do the gymnastics, you can say that a certain work of art is not just inspired by, but motivated in some way by a culture. And it stands in stark contrast to the culture it's portraying, or aspects of the culture it's portraying. That makes sense. That's why you get caricature. That's why you get shows where people talk about politics and make jokes out of politicians, at least in this part of the world. There is a way to create art that's thought provoking, that is provoking in general. And it's targeted and it's intentional. There is intentionality to it. And certainly, video games are forms of art. They are, in fact, one of the most complex forms of art. They bring every discipline into the fold, or almost every I can think of, or some of the major ones, anyways, like music, or audio, visuals. It brings writing. There's just so much to it. So much goes into the making of a video game. It's interdisciplinary uh, effort, conscious effort. So then, can a video game, which is a product of art, have cultural aspects bleed into it? Yes. There's nothing wrong with that I can think of. And in many ways, without cultures bleeding into one another over time, we wouldn't have lived, we wouldn't have had the life we're having right now. Life would be dramatically different. But because nowadays things are near instantaneous, it is very easy to narrow in, to focus on, to pay attention to individual items that we deem important. Each and every one of us has their own weight of importance for things. And I do see from time to time this comment about cultural appropriation in video games, not just in everyday life, but in video games. Great example, Ubisoft. They're under fire for this right now. They have been since they announced their latest Assassin's Creed game. I don't care about Ubisoft at all. In that I don't hate the company or I don't like the company. I appreciate the existence of such a large company employing people from around the globe, again, having offices around the world, giving others a chance to work in the gaming industry, to be part of one of the more exciting and horrible industries out there, and one of the faster growing ones as well in terms of entertainment. So purely for that reason, I cannot hate or dislike Ubisoft. Their products are okay. Their games are usually well made. The stories are interesting sometimes. Locales are interesting. Gameplay can be engaging. Their cinematics are very good. Some of their games employ trailers and cinematics that are probably second to Blizzard. Don't believe me? Check Far Cry 6, the opening trailer for that, and we will speak again. But there are many others. So their games are fantastic. At the same time, because they do the same thing every year with small changes, I don't buy them. I don't play them. The last Assassin's Creed I bought was Black Flag, and I enjoyed that immensely. And then the Syndicate, and I did try Unity as well. But I always wait for sale. I always wait when the prices drop. I do have Assassin's Creed Ragnarok as well. But I got it like 1/10 of the original asking price. And I played 2 hours of it. I've had Far Cry 3, 4. 4 I enjoyed a great deal. 5 was interesting. 6 I've only played half an hour of. I've played the Crew. I've tried Crew 2. I've played their, again, Splinter Cell. I've played their... what other games are there? The Division, which was one of my greatest disappointments from them. In terms of how amazing the story and the teasers leading up to the release of the game were, and then how poor the game was. I mean, it's still a very playable game. People still appreciate it, and I think a wintry, post-apocalyptic New York FPS MMO, if it had some horror elements to it, they would have nailed that. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. What I'm saying is, yeah, they make games. They make very large games, a lot of open world games. They're not necessarily referring to them as live services the way EA likes to do, but they are kind of, in a way, a live service. Their pricing tiering is horrible. A lot of the stuff they do, because it's it's a continuation of some kind. You know, it's the next in a series of games. Smacks of Call of Duty. And again, I'm not yucking your yums. You play, you do whatever you like. I'm not going to judge. But to me, it's tiring just seeing newer and newer version of the same thing. And unfortunately, it is the same thing, and it feels samey, simply because the formula is unchanged, largely unchanged. There are changes to visuals, to story, to certainly some mechanics get introduced, some get taken away. I think the difference between Wildlands and Breakpoint, Tom Clancy Ghost Recon, the difference is staggering. I'm going on this time. What I'm saying is I have experience with Ubisoft. And their stuff is okay. But is their latest game culturally appropriating another country's history? Is Ubisoft doing this to spite the people of Japan? Is the company doing this to dilute, to offend, to ridicule, to upset? I think not. Are they trying to rewrite thousands of years of history and culture? No. Are Assassin's Creed games educational games where fact matters? No, they are works of fiction. Video games are art. Art imitates life. Art helps create fiction because although art imitates life, it's an interpretation of life. It's not 100% accurate depiction of things to cellular or quantum level. No, it's usually looking at life through a microscope, through a telescope. So if you're losing your mind over this, over the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows has a black African samurai, you're missing the point. The point is, it is a video game first, which is a fiction, which is a form of art, which is inspired by real historical happenings in Japan. But underneath all of that, it's still Ubisoft. It's still their horrible pricing and DLCs and season passes and umpty thousand different asking prices and probably some weird DRM on top of that. And if it's anything like Unity, because I saw like they have a new system where you can build your own settlement of sorts, it might be a hot mess when it releases. It still has that trademark Ubisoft touch. It's still going to have your hubs of things happening and then a sprawling open world that some people might like and some people might be taken aback by just the vastness of it, the way people were with Ragnarok. But I liken Ubisoft's work to a magic show, where the magician sort of explains the magic trick before they perform the magic trick. And look, I know I'm all about cliches today, but the only real magic is illusion. So if you're looking at this illusion of what Assassin's Creed Shadow is, at this work of art, at this work of fiction, and think, well, this is not true to life. This is not doing justice to a country of hundreds of millions of people with thousands of years of rich history and culture, then yeah, I get it. I get it. It could be better. It can always be better. But you cannot put that down to cultural appropriation because it's famous to do now, or if somehow there is a huge market for Asian themed games and so on and so forth. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're just jumping on a bandwagon of games set in Japan. I think there's been a long time coming for one of those. Same applies to Forza Horizon, for example. But pure authenticity from a video game, unless it's a simulator, it's labeled a learning game or a simulator, I don't expect. And to be honest, I don't expect fantastical things out of Ubisoft either. They'll be good. They won't be fantastic. So I leave you with this. Don't fret over works of fiction. See where religion took us when people started taking it seriously. And if you feel upset about this comment, I am sorry, but that's just true to me. That's my truth. Fiction is just that. You hop in, you allow yourself to be mesmerized, you allow yourself to enjoy that illusion or dislike it completely. And then it's time to dispel it. It's time to send it away. It's time to get disillusioned again, time to get grounded again, time to move on to the next thing. So if anger, frustration, confusion is what drives you, more power to you. I can't be angry or upset or confused about fiction. Not today. Hopefully not anytime soon. Yeah, don't buy on day one. Don't buy their most expensive tiers. Don't buy any of the DLC. Wait for a sale. Get it then. And enjoy it for what it's worth. Thanks for your time. See you around.